they have it.
All right, it's all right with everybody. It's 12:50. I'm going to go ahead and call us back to order in open session. Got a couple folks still down the hall, but we've got our quorum present, so we will go ahead and come back to order. Item 5 on the agenda is a public comment period. We had a Mr. Nicholas Bergfield signed up to speak about an issue, but he's not here, so we're going to see if, I don't suppose there's anyone else signed up to speak. So we will go ahead and bring up item 6, but before I do that, I'm going to take a moment for personal privilege. And I want to recognize Councilwoman Gibson. This will be your last meeting with us. And I want her to know how much I personally appreciate her and her service and the time that she has spent working with this board and working on the city council, and how much her service, her friendship, and everything you've done has meant to me and to this board. I'd like for y'all to join me. Stay till 1 when the cart comes by.
I know, until my cart comes through. I was thinking, I'm listening to, we got PUC approved. And I was thinking when I first started council, you can probably count on 2 hands the number of meetings I've missed since I started council. And I started going to these meetings simply to learn, because I knew nothing about LP&L. And you'll remember this. And I was the only council member that ever went at the time, just to start learning. And boy, did I step into a hornet's nest at the time, not even knowing what I was stepping into. So I was thinking how far we've come from a board that was really on the wrong path to a board that is absolutely on the right path. And from a staff that was in complete turmoil to a staff that is just thriving. And it's so nice to be leaving in that way. And I just appreciate everybody from the staff, the entire staff. David, you've done an incredible job. And this board is amazing. I'm just proud to have been a part of everyone that began appointed. So thank you all.
Thank you.
And I'll be watching.
Still
although I won't have the privilege of knowing what goes on in here, I have your phone number and I have your phone number. And I will be calling because I'm not going to pay attention to the media part. I'll find out.
Will you be a speaker next month?
No, I will not. I will not become that person, I promise. But I will stay tuned.
Citizens to be heard. You can always.
I will not be that person. But I will call and find out what's going on. But thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you all.
Thanks again. Words can't really properly express how important you feel to this whole process. All right. Now, item 6. Presentation and discussion of the updated report by the Director of Electric Utilities or his designee regarding customer service, business center practices, procedures and policies, customer concerns and complaints, website information, billing forms and procedures, and LP&L staff and performance. Mr. McCollum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll hit a few highlights here in the written materials and try to respond to any questions that you might have. The media section of the report, again, there were a lot of news articles about ERCOT, as was expected. Put some information on our Facebook side as well to try to keep folks informed of what was going on. We're trying to ramp up helpful information on our website as we go into the summer months, showing people how to conserve. It's kind of disappointing that there's so many negative reactions to the helpful information that we put out there on our social media, but I guess that's to be expected. You put out something out there that's intended to help customers, and you get a lot of negative comments. But anyway, we're still going to continue to do that. There's some information about our customer portals and kiosks on page 15. And I don't know if y'all noticed, there's kiosks in the drive-thru now. So some of our representatives were out there wiping down the terminal yesterday because I think that the dust had covered it up. But I don't know how much use that's getting, but we're trying to encourage folks to use those kiosks where we can.
Do they still don't give change? They still don't give change?
No change. But you get a credit. It's applicable to your next bill.
Well,
So
okay.
if you owe $15 and you pay $20, we get a $5 credit.
Well, I mean, that's good.
I think we exhausted that topic.
I want to discuss this.
Heather wants to cover those income taxes.
No.
Okay, on, let's see, jumping over to page 18, the customer service recap.
What's a kiosk?
That's where you can go if you don't want to wait in a long line.
There were only two ahead of me.
On page 18 of the customer service recap, a couple of noteworthy things going out this month. The performance indicators improved this month. The call waiting time was much lower this month, 47 seconds as opposed to higher levels in prior months. And email communications were on the decline as well. As we first rolled out the new City of Lubbock Utilities website and the new interface, there was a lot of questions, a lot of emails were handled, so we went from 4,000 emails in February to only 757, so a lot of the questions are getting answered. Folks are beginning to understand the new system. Added 121 customers to paperless billing. Don and Jerry, you are welcome to join us. The meter reader error rate was better target this month, the first time in quite some time. The meter reading error rate is improved to that.
You must be proud of that. You put a red circle on it.
Yeah. We were proud of it.
I would have highlighted it too if I could.
So finally we got there, Ms. Gibson.
Thank you. You know, I didn't get one call that says my meter was red right this year. It's amazing.
Don't jinx us.
On the commercial construction report that starts on page 22, we completed 10 projects this month and added one to the list, so had quite a few completions over the last month. The ones that are highlighted are the ones that were completed. So that's really all I wanted to call your attention to. Happy to respond to any questions.
Mr. McCullough, I was looking at this, so I think you touched on it, the average call wait time was 47 seconds from large. And I guess the volume of calls that's pretty consistent, about 20,000 calls a month, so.
Volume of calls stayed consistent, but we were able to respond to the calls quicker. And I think probably staffing levels had something to do with that. I know we had some illness in the prior months that kind of hurt our availability of CSR personnel. So.
Our handling time in the graph below that is somewhere around 5 minutes on most of those.
Yeah, and again, we don't want to emphasize that too much because we're trying to emphasize handling the customer's business, being friendly and courteous, and not just getting them off the call as quick as possible. But there was a reduction in the time required to deal with their issue.
question. In the graph at the lower right, the March activities, which I'm color challenged, so I'm not sure I'm seeing that. And I hadn't ever really focused on it before. The total customer disconnects, that's about 1,994.
That's correct.
And then reconnects, 1,556. Is that a pretty consistent number, month to month? Is that?
Recall,
I think at this point, it's a fairly consistent number. I think in terms of history, it's probably low, but lower than what we have done in history, but it's consistent with where we're at now, based on staffing levels and other issues that arise that cause us to not work those kind of orders on, every day, all day long.
So
That includes customers that volunteer to disconnect, correct? So there's probably a seasonal aspect to that.
No, that number is just non-paid.
That's non-paid.
You lacked about 400 or 500 that weren't pre-connected. Do you keep track of their status, or do we just get left?
We do, based on every month, if that customer still doesn't pay, we'll go out there. If we're in the area, they might check the services. If a payment is made but they haven't contacted us, then we go out and validate. So there are some things in place that get us out there on more than one occasion, and we'll monitor it for a few minutes and determine whether maybe it was vacated and they didn't call us or something like that.
So that's basically something less than 2% disconnects, 110,000 meters. So
That does include water.
Okay, so she did say that included water, so that'd be on really about 190,000.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're counting those too. Okay.
So 100 units electric, the total on that, is that right?
104 electric and 83,000 water,
Yes.
so 187,000 total.
Mr. Owen?
Just the 133,000 total pieces of mail, we only have 60,000 on papers. Is that right?
No, well, the pieces mail includes more than just statements, right?
That's correct. It's all actual physical pieces of mail that are mailed to the customer. So that would include, surveys, anything that's hard mailed onto the customer.
But we're also gonna, in the coming months, be doing a lot of social media push and things like that to get folks over to the paperless. And I know that Jamie's group, I don't want to talk for you, but I know that they're about to have a lot of internal competitions, with our CSRs to drive folks to paperless. And we're looking at different ways that we can incentivize folks on our end of it who switch people over to paperless. So we're going to be doing a lot of that as well.
And I appreciate the customer service survey results. I think those are very helpful to see, because that's a self-selected group, but still, it's nice to see the percentage of those that are very satisfied and satisfied. Any other questions, comments for Andy?
Yeah, David just pointed out the phone survey is not self-selected. That's actually random.
Oh, okay.
We contact folks. So some of it is not just driven by folks wanting to fill out a card.
Okay.
So that page is all phone.
Everything on that page that you have before you are the cards that when they come in. So we don't, I haven't provided you any of the phone because there's usually about 5 to 7 responses a month. I mean, it's not statistically significant information really, because we get so few of those back. Even though it's every 20 calls get us. card?
Every 10 to 20.
Every 10 to 20, customers are calling in or getting the survey, but the vast majority are not responding to that. Which, to me, at least they didn't have a really bad experience, because you'd hear from them if they had a really bad experience.
I'll compliment you. I had a call in this month, and it was great, so, I followed up and everything, it was Katie, and then, great.
Jamie and Michelle and their groups are working very hard to make sure that the customer call experience is positive. So I thank them for all the hard work.
And I'm impressed this many people responded. It's a pain in the neck to do it, even when you lay off. That's great.
Any other questions, comments on item 6? If not, then let's move to item 7. Presentation and discussion of financial and capital statements, financing options, audits, and financial policies of Lubbock Fire and Life related to debt issuance issues, reserve account funding, cost allocation, revenue and expense projections, purchase power cost recovery factor, and customer metering, billing and service issues.
Before you turn the light. I wanted to make a quick introduction to everyone. Renew, would you stand up? Renew Monique is a new employee to LP&L. She is our financial services manager. She comes to us, well, she's been in Lubbock for about 5 years as a senior associate with a local auditing firm, and she's a CPA, has a vast experience in accounting. She's also focused on nonprofit and governmental accounting audits and financial statement preparation in her career. So we're very, very fortunate to have Renew. You'll probably see some more of her. She's not going to be giving presentations anytime soon. We're letting her get acclimated, but anyway, I wanted to welcome Renew. We're super happy to have you, and I want to let y'all know who she is. And she's very bubbly and has really, brought about it. It's funny how one person can kind of change the atmosphere a little bit, little by little. But Renew's been
I'll be
very-
saying hello. It's quite often.
And yourself, what's the new position?
Well, we had upgraded, if y'all remember Jarissa, who left us about a year ago to go to United, that position has been vacant since then. We went through a series of upgrades to get it to a point where we could actually get a CPA. We had a very difficult time finding a CPA locally that we could attract, and so we were able to finally get that done. So it's really is an upgraded version of what Jarissa's position was. Renew's going to take on a lot more of the accounting functions that Chad has historically been doing. Chad's position has grown so much, it's just stretched, we're all been stretched very thin from doing all the workload that we have and the future workload that we have coming up. So Renew's going to take on that accounting. She'll be doing, the annual audit. She'll be doing the bank reconciliation oversight. So she has a couple of staff members that she'll oversee. So really focusing on that. So.
No one is more excited than Chad.
Show your excitement.
Right?
Thank you, Andy. Welcome. Go ahead, Chad.
Okay. All right, Ms. Gibson, this is your last one, so I'll try to keep it brief for your sake. Just start off like we always do with our purchase power costs and where we're tracking. And since we do seasonal rates, we've been at 116, just shy of 117 for several months, and we will continue to be at that rate through May. When we layer in Excel, they adjust theirs monthly instead of seasonally, so that's where we see a little bit of a discrepancy. So they're about $10 lower than us right now. And then when we compare the state average, they actually had some volatility, and theirs changes monthly as well, and they're about just shy of 114. So while ours is the highest of those three, there's also some predictability in it for our customers. And as you're all aware, if we are over collected or under collected at the end of a season, we'll true it up. And so that actually leads me to my next slide. And you can see that we are over collected about $2.2 million through March. For the month of March, we under collected right at $100,000. So in terms of statistical variance, that's pretty good. So if things just continue as they are today, we would be 2.3 million over collected where we expected to be going into the summer, which would allow us to actually lower the rate going into the summer. I'm making no promises because we've still got 2 months left, but things are actually shaping up pretty well in terms of pass-through so far this winter season. In terms of the income statement, see operating revenues are up about $1.2 million, 1.3. Personal services are actually down a little bit. Supplies, maintenance, and other is really where we've seen the biggest change, $1.9 million there. Purchase fuel and power is down $2.5 million, which we would typically see an associated offset in the operating revenues. Our revenues related to purchase power are down a little bit, but if you'll recall, we going back to the idea of predictability for our customers, we made rate 1, which is the majority of our residential customers. We made that, instead of having a seasonal rate on the base rate for them, we just have 1 rate. And so that means we're going to be collecting more from them in the winter and a little bit less in the summer, but that drives some predictability for them. And so when we see their bills increase into the summer, we will know that the change is related to their consumption, not consumption and a base rate increase. Overall, you can see we are about $1.7 million to the good compared to the same time last year. On the balance sheet, really not a whole lot has changed with the exception of making a debt payment in February. In terms of cash, you can see it's up $9.3 million from year end. The majority of that coming from collection of accounts receivables as we come out of the hot summer season. Our receivables are turned into cash, and so we see that $6 million go into cash. And then we've over-collected the deferred expenses on the PPRF. So at year end, we were under-collected $4.8 million. Now we're over-collected $2.2, so that's a positive swing for cash as well. You can see restricted investments down $5.4 million. That's related to our debt payment. And then on the liability side of the balance sheet, accounts payable is down $2.7 million. It's primarily due to the WTMPA bill. Again, that bill at fiscal year end is typically inflated because that's the end of our summer season when prices are the highest. And so we're comparing a winter month basically to a summer month. So that explains the variance there. Here's our over collection, the $2.3 million that we showed you a few slides back. And you can see our bonds payable on the short term are down $4.4 million, which just goes back to that payment that we mentioned. And then we'll be making an entry, it will show up on the March statement where the short term that we just paid will be shifted up so that it's current to reflect what's due in the next year. Overall, net position is down $1.9 million compared to year end. That was positive last month, but that's related to our debt payment, and will continue to work its way back towards a positive ground. In terms of budget comparison, we like to compare how are we doing compared to where we were last year. Revenues are a little shy of where they were last year. We're just shy of 34% compared to about 35.5% last year. Overall, on the expenses, it's about the same, 35% compared to 37.5%. As you all know, purchase power is really the driver of most of what we do. It's 2/3 of our budget. You can see transmission is 57% of budget. We're 5 months through the year, so I think the math on that is about 42% is where we should be if it was tracking on a linear basis, compared to 27% last year. We've talked about this several times up to this point. We budgeted $1.1 million in the legal cost center because we weren't really sure where our ERCOT expenses were going to hit. But from an accounting perspective, it's proper to capture them in the most appropriate business unit, which would be our transmission cost center. And so that's why we see this budget being significantly higher than we expected. So on your consent agenda today, we have a budget amendment that is actually moving some of those dollars between Richards Cost Center and 7611. It's not that we necessarily are spending more money, we're just putting the budgets in the right places so that it doesn't look so skewed for the rest of the year. On the capital program, we've got 64 open capital projects with total appropriation to date of just shy of $170 million, and we've got $133 million to spend. If we were just divide that by 12, that's about 11 million a month that we should be spending. And you can see some of the projects here for the month of February. Some of the bigger projects, chalker capacity upgrade, just shy of $1 million. Then our annual projects, and then just some smaller dollars out here to the right for a total CapEx in February of about 2.2 million. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So Chad, on the statement of cash flows, in year to date, we've put 7.9 million into CapEx, right?
Yes, that's right.
And our budget is,
When this year started, we had this 168 appropriated. So divide that by 12, it's roughly 14 million a month. And we've done 8 million through the first 5 months of the year.
right. I mean, you may not know what our goal line is or what our date is to accomplish the chalker and all those.
Yeah, I definitely can't speak to when the projects are supposed to be done. I just know from a financials perspective kind of when the CapEx is hitting.
Other questions about the financials? Anybody else? We didn't touch on this, so I'll touch on page 27. Y'all know the change in accounting principle still. We went over that last month. That's the OPEB adjustment.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Yeah.
going through fund balance. That will ultimately get up to about 6.
It's about 12
For
I think,
our
for our piece. Yeah.
That's the total amount, though, right?
Yeah, total annual
That's
estimate
not
is
the
about
net
12.
increase for this year, but
Right.
that's the
Right.
total.
Right. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention that. I've mentioned it for a couple months in a row, and I
Right.
figured y'all probably didn't want to hear about it again.
Uh-uh.
But I'm happy to continue to
You know,
talk
I'm
about
just playing the tape.
it. Sure.
So I appreciate y'all's deal on the budget, because I know we touch on that every month too, so we'll get that in the proper spot.
All right.
Any other questions, comments on the financials? Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. All right. So that brings us to item 8. Excuse me. Consider resolution authorizing the Director of Electric Utilities to execute that certain First Amendment to Professional Services Agreement by and between the City of Lubbock, acting by and through Lubbock Power and Light and Black and Beach Corporation, amending that certain professional services agreement dated on or about September 20, 2016, to extend the term and provide additional compensation, each related to program engineering services regarding LP&L transmission and substation activities. There's a copy of that in your materials. I'd entertain a motion and want to put that on the floor. Motion by Mr. Odom, second by Mr. Conrad. All right, as far as discussion on that, Mr. McCullough, you might want
I was going to ask Blair McGinnis to explain the need for this.
Basically, Black and Beach was tasked with performing engineering work for a lot of the transmission work that we're doing upgrades for. In the beginning, typically a good budgetary number for engineering is 10%. And that's what we did originally based on the level of CIP money that we had set aside for this. Some of the tasks, as this says, we went into an agreement in late 2016 with Black and Beach, so we're probably a year and a half into this. We've asked Black and Beach to do some extra things. There were some projects that were not on their task list. They were tasked with, I believe, 24 different projects. We've added several projects to that. That's part of this amendment for more money. We've asked them to do some things. It's on page 40. Basically, some LiDAR aerial survey that kind of takes an account of all of our transmission systems. Verifications of existing transmission line. We wanted them to do some research on the right-of-way and easements to ensure that we did have the correct width of right-of-way for a 115 versus a 69 kV. Geotechnical surveys, which is involves soil borings to determine what the soil carrying capacity or load capacity for that soil is. When you dig down and install a transmission pole, you want it to stay upright, so that's based on soil information. Planning support, a couple of the projects, Red Raider Substation, Red Raider Line Tap, have been added to that. They also accomplished Northwest of McKenzie transmission line routing. Several of the topics that David talked about earlier were involved in that. So basically, the request is for additional money and to add a year to the contract.
So y'all will see on page 40, so basically the original not to exceed was 9.5 million, we took that to 16. And then extend. Yes, sir.
They're billing us on a time and material not to exceed? Is that correct? Or
They are.
Fixed cost?
Time and material. So whatever hours that they expend is what we pay for.
A lot of money?
Yes, sir, it is. We have a group of folks that do watch that. They have pushed back on some things.
You're reading my mind.
We have geared up to do that. The engineering group does pay attention very closely to the bills. They give hourly estimates on what their costs are per project. And Eduardo and his group reconcile that.
Yeah, that may be not an electric industry, my familiarity is more in commercial and industrial construction. In the old days, a percentage of the cost went away and went more to fixed costs. And I'm seeing, this board, there's more of this not to exceed. I mean, it's just a whole lot of money, so I appreciate the fact that somebody's watching that very closely. Because that, that could get in hand real easy. It's not watching very closely.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Conrad?
I guess that'd be my concern as well as, would we be revisiting this, a year out from now, asking to increase this because of Tom's conduct gotten out of hand? Or is that, not, if it was up to me, it would be more of a fixed cost deal for us?
Go ahead and say that question again. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I guess it's not so much a question, it's more of a concern that we'll be looking at this deal for another increase.
Come this time next year.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Depending on our progress on Northwest and Cuba.
I'm not going to rule it out. I don't anticipate having to do that. We're definitely gaining some efficiency in what we're doing and the way Black and Beach understands it. Some of our specifications and things like so. Construction management. The original scope for Black and Beach, that is a good point David brought up. Construction management was under Black and Beach's purview. We're currently evaluating, pulling that out from under their area or their responsibility and looking at somebody that's definitely cheaper. Some of the numbers, Black and Beach is estimating $5 million for construction management. We found a company that has turned in a proposal for, $1.5 million cheaper.
Yeah, and one thing about it is we issue these task authorizations, it encumbers the funds, the overall funds. So as we start completing some of these projects where there's remaining funds that are not spent, we'll recover that money. But in order to issue additional task authorizations that are necessary to keep this project progressing, we've got to widen the gap so that we can issue those additional PAs. But ultimately, we're going to recover some of the money that's in that $9.5 million, which included construction management, particularly if we go with another company that can do it cheaper.
Let's place some time and materials, bring back questions every month so we don't go watching.
do you anticipate that this will, the new additions that we added, that's pretty exhaustive? You then feel like that ought to be it, or it's always an open book on these?
We're definitely not the experts at this type of large-scale construction. We've leveraged some of the recommendations from Black and Veatch, and some of these are included in that. You know, if it'll make the job easier and quicker, we're willing to incur that cost, absolutely.
So just this may be for Andy and Chad too. So when I'm looking at the CapEx budget, we're looking at Northwest and McKenzie. That's 12, and Chalker's 11.2. Let's see the red line. Anyway, this encompasses a service that touches on several projects. So it's an all-around part that would be in our CapEx budget for those different projects.
Right, these costs are allocated amongst each of those capital projects based on an allocation factor that they'll come up with. So, you know, when you look at the scale of the size of this capital program, it's not, it is large dollars, but it's it's a fraction compared to the total cost of these projects. That's about
Mr. Bowman.
Just to be clear, this amendment really just adds another $6.5 million to the already not to exceed amount.
Yes, sir.
Does this make it clear that way? If you're not, we're really getting rid of the first amendment and get replaced with the second.
Correct. It changes the length, it changes the time, and I think all the other stipulations, I'm going to refer to Mr. Casden, but everything else stays the same.
Yeah, I know. I was looking for the point where it said the first amendment is no longer in effect and replaced with the 16th amendment. This is a wording thing, isn't it?
Mr. Bowman, if you'll look at number 2, which is on page 42. Page 42.
Page 42.
Yes, sir. The compensation sentence in the original agreement, and this is the first amendment, that compensation
The word
sentence.
replaced.
It's
That's what I
deleted,
mean.
yes, sir,
Yeah.
and replaced with this.
I didn't
Yes,
see
sir.
that.
Good question.
Any other discussion, questions? That clear? I think it's just one of those things we got to do to keep the ball rolling.
The other thing I'd point out is that all these costs will be capitalized ultimately. We'll be earning a rate of return on these when we call it T-cost rates. Even though we're fronting the money for these projects, we'll recover our costs through the T-cost rate that we get off the
We've got a motion and a second that we discussed it, so is there any other discussion? All right, then, all those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by nay? So that would be, it's your, all right. That brings us to the consent agenda. Before I read the consent agenda, is there anybody, after you went through your packet, is there any item on there that you'd like to pull and discuss separately? Anybody see anything on there they want to pull and discuss separately? No, you're not reluctant, Mr.
Well,
Bell?
I don't want to start a lengthy discussion. I don't have a problem with the first item. I would kind of like to understand what we're accomplishing with this. Sounds like a really good thing. I'm just curious to understand exactly.
Yeah, we
what
really
we're trying to
can't,
accomplish.
we really can't go into it without pulling, so let's just take up item 9 separately, and I'll ask for a motion and a second on that. Okay, motion by Mr. Bell, second by Ms. Stafford. Now, So discussion on that, Andy, you want to go?
Yeah, this is an item to really create a 24/7 customer service call and dispatch center. Currently, there are positions in the distribution department, in the SCADA department, basically, who are there 24 hours a day. And as we move forward into our kind of our new world, those folks really can't be distracted from monitoring the transmission systems. They really need to be dedicated there. And because they are getting customer calls throughout the evening, and that was done originally to keep costs down by, since people are already there anyway, let's just have them answer calls after hours. And so we have made the decision that now's a good time to make that transition so the folks at distribution can focus on their job. We can focus on our job because we provide customer service at least from 8 until 9 every day through the phone, but this will take it for the rest of that time frame. So what this budget amendment does is it adds 8 full-time positions in the customer service division, and there are currently 5 vacant positions that are at, 2 of those are at distribution, 3 of those are at production. Those vacant positions have a much higher pay scale, so the value of those 5 positions, the cost of those 5 positions is actually a little bit more than the cost of the 8 positions that we'd be adding. So this won't add expense to the budget. It's actually neutral because we'll save about $33,000 on the new 8 positions versus those 5 that were eliminated. And that $33,000 left over will be used to help with the staffing costs, the reconfiguration of the interactive voice response system, and any desks or computers are needed for the new aid. So really, it doesn't increase costs overall. We think it makes for a much more efficient means to take care of our customers and then also let our transmission folks do the job that they're hired to do, especially as we go forward and their work tasks increase over time.
It's a little better than budget neutral, but it's not really a savings because it's empty positions, right?
Right, and it's technically an increase of 3 full-time equivalents, and from that reason, we will have to take that to the council. In the budget ordinance this year that the council approved, if it's a neutral change, the city manager actually has the authority to do that. It doesn't have to go to the council, but because this certain item actually increases the head count, it will need to go to the council. It didn't increase dollars, it just increased head count, and so we'll be taking it to the council upon your approval.
I think it's great, the 24/7, but we won't name names, but that situation where someone closed on a house late in the day, and then the previous owner had shut the power off, and they were trying to move in, and it was a night that was expected to be close to freezing. With these 24/7 people, would they have been able to respond to something like that without me getting calls and you getting calls at night? Thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank you for taking care of all that.
Yes, there at least be someone there to answer the phone at this point. And there have been folks to answer the phone, but I think the folks in the distribution office have not been able to. They could take a message or they could answer the phone, but they couldn't really do anything about it. So that's the difference here.
So that person would have the ability, if it was something outside of policy, like dispatching someone after hours to turn somebody's power on in some kind of a tough situation, they'd be able to call somebody to get approval to do that.
Yeah, and keep in mind, it still is after hour, because any work in the field that has to be done, we still have to be dispatched or taken care of very, early the next day. But at least they'll be able to, whether or not we can help them, it'll be a case-by-case basis, but also there'll be the ability to have the information ready first thing to get that taken care of in the morning if it can be taken care of that night.
They'd have the ability to take exceptional action if they felt it warranted.
Yes.
Like that situation where I called you late at night and you took care of it.
Right.
They would be able to call.
You can't eliminate all the calls to you.
No.
You have too many friends and neighbors.
I've got you and furniture and everybody's social security number, phone numbers, home numbers. I mean, it sounds like great. I'm glad you were doing that. Thank you.
Other questions, discussion? then I'll call for vote. All those in favor of that budget amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by nay? Passes unanimously. Anything else on the consent agenda that anyone would like to pull and discuss separately? All right. Not, then I will make a brief attempt to summarize each item. So on item 10 is a budget amendment for different capital projects, substation upgrades, the Red Raider tap, and establish a transmission line. Item 11 covers several CIP projects, amendments, and also transfer costs between cost centers. And y'all can see the list there. Item 12 is for furniture and fixtures, or office furniture at Municipal Hill. That was after the storm from several years ago that's replacing that office furniture. Item 13 is award a public works contract for the Wadsworth substation construction. Item 14 is for the Chalker to Oliver and Chalker to Thompson transmission line construction. Item 15 is for poles. I'll just make a brief side. We had this discussion on the previous month where we were rejecting the contract, so this is a replacement for that, if I remember correctly. And then item 16 is a settlement, compromise and settlement agreement with Jillian Stanley under the cause so laid out in the item. So I'll entertain a motion.
Motion we approve the consent agenda. Good job, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Bowden, second by Ms. Stafford. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by nay? It would be, I think, Mr. McMahon left the meeting, so that's 7-0. So that brings us to the last item, which is to adjourn. Appreciate everybody's patience and appreciate your participation.
I just want to mention, right after this,
That's right.
we're having a Human Resources Committee meeting down on the second floor, down the hall from Dave's office. And we're posted, so anyone else is welcome to, if you want to sit in on that.
Mr. Bella, it's only posted for committee meeting.
That's right. It's not we can't.
Oh, we don't.
Only committee, it's not posted as an EUB.
That's right.
So you'd be on the committee to come.
That's right. We don't
Why
want
we
to
post it? Okay, I get it. But can we post in the future, so if other members don't listen to it?
We can.
I thought we were posting that.
We can, I did not.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't notice that.
We did not post that meeting.
Okay, it's just posted specifically.
There's just committee meeting.
So I'm not firing.
No.
Yes.